Oh. Oh, shit. I see. Well, I guess this is about as close to incontrovertible proof of your existence as I could have ever demanded. Actually, being a good skeptic, I hope you don't mind if I entertain the possibility that I'm just experiencing a drug-induced hallucination, but... Ow. Yeah, that hurt. Alright, I'll go along with this for now. But I'm not going to kneel down or anything. That's kind of like closing the barn door after the cows have already run out. A little too late for that, don't you think? Besides, I was thrust into life in a very undignified manner and state, so the least you could do is let me leave it in better circumstances. And really, that's the very, very least you could do. You know, now that the initial shock of being dead is starting to wear off, I find myself getting really angry with you. I mean, this whole situation, it's absurd. According to most accounts, this is the part where you judge me, right? Who the hell are you to be a moral judge? You're a sadistic, genocidal, sex-obsessed tyrant. I mean, all the way through the Bible, well, you remember. You were there. All my life, I laughed at Christians who told me I hated God. Like I told them, it wasn't that I hated you. I just genuinely didn't think you existed. I hated you like I hated any poorly written fictional character. But I did hate the idea of you. I mean, I didn't see evidence to believe in any gods, but you in particular, you seemed like a logical contradiction. I was glad that the Bible was a work of seeming fiction, because the belief that all the worst things in the world were at worst created by, at best permitted by, an all-powerful conscious being, well, that was just too horrible to not hate. I'm kind of relieved to find out all this time I was outraged at something a bit more tangible. Or is this where your grand plan is revealed, your mysterious ways made clear? I mean, are you going to say some magic words and all of a sudden I'll understand how a child being raped and tortured and left in a ditch is part of your infinite benevolence? Will disease and starvation make sense? Because, you know, I don't think I want them to. If that's part of your omniscient knowledge, and you can fucking keep it. I guess it's fitting. Mankind's first act of defiance was desiring knowledge to be more like you. Well, then let my last act of defiance be choosing ignorance, so I can be as unlike you as possible. I guess this is all perfectly pointless. I mean, you know me better than I know myself, right? I mean, you know my mind, you know my thoughts, you know, and had power over all the circumstances of my life that meant your very existence seemed impossible to me. You knit me together in my mother's womb, right? So what am I then? A casualty of free will? I mean, you wanted people who would freely choose to worship you. Yet to satisfy your own ego, you created people who you knew would choose not to worship you and would suffer an eternity of torture in hell for it. Really, God? Really? You know, even if everything had been perfect, a world free from pain and death, where everyone would freely choose to worship you for eternity, except for one person, and you made that one person anyway, then you would be infinitely more evil than all of the worst of humanity combined. And I can't speak for my other brothers and sisters that are atheists, but I'm that one person, and you're an asshole. You're going to judge me? On behalf of all that is good and decent in this world that you created, I judge you. I mean, I may have been a willful child, but you were a terrible father. I can't say I'm even inclined to beg for my soul at this point. I mean, given what I said about you knowing me perfectly and all. Even so, supposing mercy's still an option, I didn't kill my chances with that last rant, I suppose I'll give it a shot. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I have any love for you. But no principle is worth being damned for if it can be prevented. What can I say in my defense? I tried to live a good life. I tried to be good without you. You told your followers to feed the hungry, to clothe the poor, and to visit the sick. And I did all of those things. Not because you told me to or because I was storing up treasure in heaven. I did them because they were the right thing to do. I did them for their own sake and for the sake of my neighbors. And when I saw suffering, I did something about it instead of just praying to you and hoping something would happen. And when suffering continued because I didn't act, I took responsibility for it instead of pretending it was part of your divine will. And I was content to have one life. Despite how horrible life could be sometimes, I was usually pretty glad to have one. I didn't demand more. I was content to find meaning in all of that meaningless chaos, to find love in all of that pain. I loved seeing the beautiful simplicity in all of that apparent complexity that was life. I gotta say, you may have failed basic ethics, but you sure had a deft hand when it came to creating the cosmos. None the least because you did it in such a way as to make yourself seem completely irrelevant. But the splendor of the night sky, the amazing diversity of life, everything. Quantum mechanics? Holy shit, that was awesome. I totally love that. Oh, and relativity? Wow, God, you were on a roll that day. I saw nearly every aspect of your creation for what it was. Wonderful. I didn't look at an exquisitely intricate world and call it fallen. I didn't look at a newborn child and call it sinful. I didn't look at my apparently finite life and call it inadequate. So you created mankind because you desired companionship and love. Well, then you needed me. But I didn't need you. I grew up and took responsibility for my own life, and if that's really the greatest crime of all, then there's nothing left I can say. I guess the deck was stacked against me the whole time, wasn't it, God? But honestly, I can't say I have any regrets. I lived a better life than most of the people you're going to let through those gates. So heaven, hell, oblivion, it's your move, God. Though I still think I'm probably just hallucinating.